and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com. If I can turn this stupid thing down, we are here in Nashville at the SEC Media Days, where I am joined by Eddie Radosevich and George Stoya as well. Nate Fakin is the cameraman, apparently. And we're not live streaming. I know people are going to be...
We could be, though.
If we live streamed it, then people would be complaining that it wasn't a pod. So
yeah, there would be multiple complaints either way that we go, so we're good.
We're good.
We're in Nashville.
We'll just do what we want because we're at Nashville, SEC Media Days, where we are at the Hyatt Regency. Is that where we're at?
Grand Hyatt. The Grand Hyatt.
We can say that because nobody's going to be calling us.
Yeah, we can put that out there now.
The construction around here, just ridiculous.
It's like breaking the perimeter to get into this building.
So, I mean, this is the final day. We've been here for 2 days. We got here Tuesday, and now it is Thursday. Tuesday night, today we had Shane Beamer and Josh Heupel. Maybe some interesting things there with Josh Heupel.
Some old friends. Some old long-lost friends.
Some older than others, and some
That's right.
more lost than others.
And maybe somebody that we didn't think was going to speak to us, not named Shane Beamer.
Yes, it seems that Josh Heupel and I are just fine.
Yeah,
it
seemed like everything was good. And, obviously, I think there were some questions about kind of how that was going to go, how his reaction to Oklahoma being on the schedule in 2024, a return to Norman. And,
let's just say he put a nice face on it.
Right. I think that's the best way to say it.
I don't know that privately that, it is all that it seems on the exterior,
right.
I would say. But we'll get to more of that as well. But Shane Beamer today, basically, we have just been here all week, kind of taking in the SEC Media Days.
Sure.
Next year we'll be in Arlington. I'll come back to Nashville every year if they just want to have it in Nashville. I'm fine with that.
It's been a lovely host.
Broadway's been awesome.
Yeah, we had a great time last night.
We're not supposed to talk about George and Broadway.
It was a good time.
George had a good time apparently, and that's all we can say legally.
That's right.
So anyway, George, he's been doing a lot of on-camera interviews this week. That was something new for Sooner Scoop. I really enjoyed that. Andy Staples has been here. You talked to Greg Sankey earlier today for like about a 10-minute interview as well. But I mean, Paul Feinbaum got an interview with him. Eddie Radosevich and Billy Lucci.
Yeah.
How did that go?
We're brothers from another mother. I think that it went very, very well.
He is. And I like Billy, but like if you,
No, you don't.
I mean, I don't really know him.
If you work here, you can't.
He seemed like a nice guy, but
let's ask Josh his opinion. Josh is not here.
It was a good.
Josh has had the most fights with Billy Lucci.
I figured that we needed to talk to somebody that had a little bit of a game plan on what fans should expect when they go into the SEC.
He's the definition of a Texas A&M guy, though. I mean, like
you
just
think?
The way he was dressed,
right.
the way that he spoke,
right.
It was.
I don't know what he's doing with the hair these days. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what that is. No, but I mean, we asked the question so many times, like, is Oklahoma SEC ready? What is SEC ready to mean? Is the media SEC ready? And we come off of Big 12 Media Days last week. And to be honest, being here for the last couple of days, it's a media day. It's like it's not that much different. I mean, there are some things that they do differently in terms of, how they put the coaches and the players through it. They still have a radio row. It's a little bit bigger at SEC Media Days. They still have, the big press conference where people usually start off questions with compliments, which they shouldn't do. Although I would say the Big 12, more of a homer vibe in that media day than the SEC Media Day.
Yeah, I would say so.
Not as many.
There weren't as many.
Coach, I just took your former player
Right.
out to dinner, and I just want to say he's a great kid.
There was some of that though.
There was a couple of
There's
them.
a little bit.
There was a couple of them, but I think that for the most part, it's basically the same media day, the same run of the mill, electronic media, print media, all that kind of stuff. So it's just good to kind of get some.
I will say this:
toes in the sand.
Like, it is very well run. SEC is a bigger entity, and you can just feel it being here.
Sure.
I was talking about that this morning on the radio. Like, this is ESPN's baby, and it feels more corporate. It feels more like George. I mean, you covered the Broncos the last 3 years. Does this feel more NFL-ish than college?
100%. And I think in the sense that like every team is competitive, and you can feel that from the media in the sense that they are covering the team. Like the amount of there's more media here, I think, in terms of team by team basis, right? Like there's a bunch of media for each team, but you can also just feel it among the media members how much pressure they put on covering the players and the coaches. I mean, the kind of questions they're asking, those sorts of things. You can just feel it's just more.
It's more nuts and bolts for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like Tennessee, Josh Heupel, he answered a lot more questions about production, returning production. On three apparently has some crazy stats guy that stood up, and Josh Heupel had a pretty funny quote like, I love your enthusiasm. Something guy.
When he said he let off with the sexiest thing. What
sexiest offense.
He's like the sexiest
his voice
offense.
cracked like he was like a 16-year-old or something. But no, I mean the Big 12 had some of that with the stat guy. And by the way, I see JD PicKell making his way down here from On 3, and he's a great guy to talk to about this. Actually, JD, let's give you a microphone. I'll get you turned up here. JD PicKell from On 3. I know you guys have been seeing him more and more on YouTube, Sooner Scoop. I know I've done a hit with you. I think Eddie has too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So George, I'm sure, will be coming up soon.
The man.
But we were talking about this, JD. Like, who is our stat guy? That I don't know if you saw the Josh Heupel press conference, but there was an On 3 like stat cat.
That's
Yeah,
the man.
He's
That's the man
a
right
very
there.
excitable human being.
He had the question of the week. I mean, that was electric.
I mean, you talk about an almanac of knowledge. Dude just has such an eye for the game, understands the scheme so well. Like, every time I listen to him speak, I'm like, I think you're the Goodwill Hunting of college football. Like, I think I could just drop the X's and O's like StatCat, solve this coverage for me. Give me the cover 2 beater, and he's like, right here.
How does he do with a mop and a bucket?
He's a legend. It's a great question. TBD on that.
Okay, we'll figure that. No, we were talking about the differences between kind of Big 12 and SEC Media Day. Like Big 12, there was a podcast guy that was asking a bunch of stats questions.
Sure.
Probably way more than StatCat. This is a StatCat?
StatCat. Clark Brooks is also his legal given name.
Okay.
I think working on
like
making
StatCat, though.
the full switch. I think is in the works.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But I mean, it's obvious. And I thought some of the questions today about AI, I know we wrote about it on 3, but like I haven't had a chance to read through that, and I think a lot of the coaches haven't had a chance to really familiarize themselves what the hell AI has to do with the future of recruiting.
As if transfer portal and NIL and everything else wasn't enough with like the way the game is evolving. And by the way, conference expansion. Now, hey, coach, go figure out AI or hire somebody else onto your staff to figure out AI because that's what college football requires now, apparently. No, it's wild, man.
I've said this all along. Like, I'm getting sick of the AI labeling. It's like every time, this pen writes on the paper. It uses artificial intelligence to do that. Yes. I mean, give me a freaking break with the AI stuff.
The AI I know wears number 3 for the Philadelphia 76ers and doesn't like to practice.
Yes,
that's my
AI.
AI.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, let's talk about, just this week in general. I mean, this is the 4th day. What's kind of your biggest takeaway from SEC Media Days 2023?
That's a phenomenal question. I don't know that there is a ton of
really
takeaways.
That.
Well, I think one of the things that stuck out early on was we were all kind of waiting for something to drop that made headlines and kind of was earth-shattering in the college football landscape, like Texas and OU a couple years ago, and some big headline to break. And it was kind of refreshing that we got to day 2, day 3, and it's like, oh, we're just talking about ball. Like this is kind of refreshing that we're actually turning our focus to what's going to happen on Saturdays now. So I think that in itself, like the no news is good news kind of thing, has sort of stayed true, I think, for this media days.
And it was interesting because it was a concerted effort, I thought, after day 1 when one LSU player said that they don't know what they're in for, but everybody pretty much said we're happy to have these 2 teams in the SEC. They're going to make us better.
Yeah,
that was a resounding kind of just talking point, I think, by most people. I don't know if that was a coach step deal or
100%. And I mean, Greg Sankey, who, to be fair, probably has some interest in it being a positive move. Yeah. But I mean, he spoke extremely highly of Texas and OU and that move and how it's going to benefit the conference. And I think conference expansion is funny because nobody has like a weak opinion on it. You either love it or you hate it. But when we get to Saturdays and we get Oklahoma LSU and we get Texas Georgia, like nobody is going to be complaining that we have those matchups, So I think the whole lead up is like we drag our feet and we talk about what we do and don't like, but like once they start playing games, like okay, we're all happy,
Well, and something we were talking about too, before you walked up is like what this week has taught me. It's not that the SEC is on a different level than anybody else, but they definitely have professionalized a conference. ESPN, SEC, like it is so buttoned up and so it feels like a corporation almost.
The whole media day environment, and y'all could probably attest to this, like it's a product. Like this
Sure.
whole thing is
100%.
an event.
Yeah.
Like, and it's, I mean, so this is my first media days for any conference, and just seeing this and seeing the spectacle that it's been, and college football Twitter come to life, like it's wild. It's a lot.
Well, like the Big 12, you have the kid reporters running
Yeah.
around. You got some
beef
guy,
jerky,
you got the beef jerky
yeah.
guy throwing stuff at you. You have a lot of like the Saban thing when he came to the podium. Because you guys were at the Big 12, and they got the cheerleaders and the
Sure.
mascots like cheering them up to the podium, the coaches, and Nick Saban just has a fight song playing in the background, and he walks up. He's like, "Well, that was exciting."
I think some of that's like the SEC doesn't need all that extra stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's enough as
Yeah.
it is. But then they also just do things very professional. I mean, even the media, they had a media party pretty much every single night we've
Yeah.
been here. Like that stuff
with
is
buses and
Yeah.
that a police
escorts all over
escort.
the
It's
town
a
and
media
stuff.
party.
Yeah.
Like that's unheard of.
I got people asking me, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" I'm like, "I'm going home." What do you mean? What am I
been a
doing?
Getting
full
out of
day.
here.
They're like,
Yeah.
Getting out of here.
And they're like, "No,
It's a
we're
marathon.
going." Oh no, I mean that's like every night. They're like, "We're going this place tonight." I'm like, "Really? I didn't even like this is the first I'm hearing of that." But no, to your point, every single night it's like media days ends, but it also keeps going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild. It is wild.
Did any? I mean, you guys, you were over there. You and Andy are talking to players and coaches. Like, were there even any missteps?
Any missteps in the sense of like
For
anything they
PR?
said?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think so. The closest thing that I would say I experienced from a misstep, and it may not be a misstep, it may just be calling his shot. Sophomore corner Jason Marshall from Florida, he's like, "We're going to shock the world," and I'm like, "I love it, man. Like, bring it on." But also, you know, the over under win total in Gainesville is 5.5 wins. So
Right.
like, let's go get it. But I mean, I could see that being considered a misstep. Like, hey, we don't really want to make headlines, but. No, as a whole, I mean, everyone seems to have like. I mean, I even tried to ask Jaden Daniels, like, "Hey, are you the best quarterback in the SEC?" He's like, "I don't know about that, man. A lot of good quarterbacks, like just, oh yeah, finishing off with the boom here at SC Media Day."
The weather.
It feels,
weather,
it feels
man.
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
There
we
it
brought
is.
the weather with
There
We
it
forgot
is.
to mention we survived a tornado basically in Memphis,
Yeah, Memphis
on the way here.
out here.
There you go. So to answer your question, no real missteps from my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see guys any at the podium. Well, Shane Beamer today had probably the misstep in the electronic room where he was talking about playing at Oklahoma, and he said there's nothing like it anywhere else. And then he realized, oh, crap, I'm the coach of South Carolina.
There's other places. There's other places.
It's very clear he loves Oklahoma so much.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
for
he
him to
does.
literally, he saw us sitting there in the front row.
There's still an affinity there.
Oh yeah, and he was just like, "Hey, make sure you get the Oklahoma
care of my
guys."
Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I
so.
I mean, even Spencer Rattler at the podium. I mean, obviously his situation at Oklahoma, I'm sure, wasn't how he
Very different,
wrote it
yeah.
up. But I mean,
Right.
even him, he didn't say a bad word about Oklahoma, and he spoke highly about his
guarantee he wanted
teammates.
to.
And
I guarantee he
sure,
wanted to.
he was
sure.
short.
I
he
mean,
was short on a few questions, but I guess he also spoke about he's still very close with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
They talk
Yeah.
like
Interesting.
frequently.
I feel like you can
So-
speak about your own experience a certain way, but I didn't feel like he had anything bad to say about Oklahoma as a whole and all that, which I thought was interesting.
He seems like somebody that's really matured too.
Yeah,
I mean,
he-
I think from
100%.
where he came from, stepping into the situation that he was in Norman, obviously you can only grow from something like that when you get beaten down and booed in front of your home crowd.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look, he had a rough experience at Oklahoma.
Sure.
I mean, he was a 5-star coming out of high school. He got booed. I mean, he got booed. He got replaced by a quarterback that is now probably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft coming up next year. So, obviously, and look, he's got all the talent, but let's face it, Spencer Rattler, so far, an average quarterback in college football.
Yeah. I think like when you take the most extreme highs he's had and the lowest lows he's had, he probably comes out right about even. Now, South Carolina fans would probably take somewhere in the middle or a little bit above the middle for the most part this year, I'm sure. I think the interesting thing about South Carolina that probably doesn't get talked about enough, it's so easy for us to sit here and blame Spencer Rattler, and a lot of the blame is due his way for sure, but like they didn't protect him very well. He was sacked 7% of the time last year, didn't run the ball. They were like 102nd in the country in terms of yards per game, and so not protecting him, not helping in the run game. It's like, all right, dude, well, maybe you got to give him some more tools for success, but to the same token, like, can't throw the ball to the other team, and there's a lot of times he did that
And you
too.
can't take too long to get rid of the ball, which
For
is
sure.
the problem at Oklahoma.
For
too.
sure, yeah.
Well, and look, I think you come out of this thing, at least for us, and just kind of wanting to do a walkthrough, basically. It's, I would say, guys, it's as we expected, but we're also impressed by, how professional this conference really is.
yeah, it's been awesome, and I think that like one of my biggest takeaways is just in the stuff that we've done with some of the national guys. When you step outside of the Oklahoma bubble, it's like, oh, maybe everything isn't doom and gloom like some would make you believe in Norman right now.
I thought Andy had a really good point, too, that, if it doesn't work out with Brent Venables, and I think we all think that it maybe will, it maybe won't, we don't know, they'll just go hire the next guy and they'll be successful. I thought that was a really interesting point from Andy. He's like, hey, they've been a top 5 program in college football for the last 100 years. And so I think that was something that was interesting to hear. But like you said, Eddie, almost everybody I spoke to, other than Paul Feinbaum.
Paul Feinbaum is not very high on Oklahoma this year.
That'll be in my story tomorrow on Friday, so look out for that. But everybody else was very complimentary of Oklahoma.
But, and I think everybody kind of, JD went into a panic when the Colin Cowherd, comments came out about how Oklahoma might be the next Nebraska. And it's like, it sent everybody to, oh, crap, could that really happen?
Sure.
But you come here, and it's like, these are teams of our quality that are joining our league. It's making us better.
Sure. And I love Colin Cowherd. Like, I enjoy listening to him. I think he's incredibly knowledgeable about a lot of things. But also, like, when you go through people that you probably trust with college football, he may be not as high on that list. So I think you probably take that with a grain of salt. But, I mean, to the Paul Feinbaum thing, Lane Kiffin believes that Paul Feinbaum is wrong all the time. So maybe things are pointing in the right direction for the good people in Norman. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and to me, that was the other thing that really stood out from this week is Lane Kiffin really hates NIL, and he hates the state of NIL, I guess is a better way of putting it.
Which is interesting because they've been balling in the portal. So you kind of would think the opposite.
The Grove Collective is like one of the better collectives that's got their shit together. He's got an advantage there.
Lane Kiffin, double agent, is the way that it's looking.
Was it
the way it's looking?
Was it Kirk Bowles that asked him the question that was like, "Can you rank the boosters in the SEC?"
Oh yeah,
that was a great. That was pretty good. But I think what he said is right. Look at the recruiting rankings, and they probably line up with some of the stronger donor bases in the country. And I don't think that that's a coincidence.
But and look, On3 does a tremendous job with NIL coverage of the business of NIL. JD, I don't know how much you get into that or talk about it, but we are at a crossroads here because it is pay for play. I mean, the way it's going right now with the collectives, it is pay for play. And I know On3 is very much involved in talking about valuations, but they're talking about real NIL. And I think today what you heard college coaches saying is, this isn't NIL. This is not what everyone expected this to be when it took off. And I'm not saying it's damaging the game at this point, but it's making coaches crazy.
Sure, and I think that's probably the next evolution we'll see is, okay, how do you provide more structure, more guidelines? And, I mean, even look at where we were when this whole thing started. Like, now we have, I think, even better people involved, and On3 is doing a lot to set the market. And so I think we're just taking steps because we kind of got thrown into the situation where the plane had to be put in the air and we put it together
Everybody
accordingly.
Said, how easy can we do this and just throw money at the problem?
Right. And we've seen, I mean, in very public ways, the whole Jaden Rashada thing, that there is definitely a deep end to this whole situation. But I do think that, the people that do things the right way and are involved for the betterment of the athlete, the things that On3 are doing, I think that will hopefully get more limelight as we get further and further into this adventure that is NIL.
And I think, when you see the SEC and Greg Sankey kind of trying to take the lead on it, they're taking it from a position of power. They're like, look, we don't want to upset the structure of college football right now because we're in a really good place. So we don't need a rogue element like a SMU or Oregon or somebody being able to have an advantage over us in the landscape of college football.
The thing I was encouraged by, we talked to him earlier this morning. We talked about expansion a little bit along with NIL and portal. And one of the things he said at the end of the conversation was, he's like, at the forefront of this whole dialogue, we got to keep in mind what makes college special. And he talked about bands, and he talked about the impact on college campuses and the games on campus and just all that. And that kind of made me, like, I guess refocus, understand, like, okay, Greg Sankey at the end of the day is like, he's a ball guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he actually enjoys and loves what college football is from that quote at least, and gave me some encouragement.
JD, we'll let you get on your way. I know you had a busy 4 days, and you're probably monitoring, getting some people on here for YouTube
great,
or whatever.
Man.
But no, I mean, everybody go check out the On3 YouTube page, subscribe, like, and check out JD PicKell.
Appreciate it, man.
We look forward to
thanks for coming by.
Hey,
thanks, y'all. No, y'all crush it, and this is awesome. I'm fired up for us to do this again in Dallas, hopefully in the near future.
Real quick before we let you go, what do you think about Oklahoma going into this year? It's awkward because we're here and they're still a year away from joining, but obviously it's a pivotal year. I think we've talked about how big this year is for Brent Venables.
We talk about it, y'all. I mean, I think we're pretty aligned when it comes to Oklahoma. Like, I don't trust that Brent Venables is a bad defensive coach. That, to me, just sounds like it makes no sense. So if you believe that, I think you're wrong. I think think the personnel is substantially improved. I love what they did in the portal. I love Dylan Gabriel's experience. Like, there's a lot to like. I'm really curious offensively what they look like on the outside.
Yeah.
Because it's so much built around, hey, can we win one-on-one when we spread you out? Angelo Anthony's the guy that gets you excited.
Yep.
But, I mean, I'm very, very intrigued to see what they do because a lot of people are quick to say, 6-7, Brent Venables this. And it's like, you're not really looking close enough at what happened last year if you're really trying to get a gauge for Oklahoma. So, very, very interesting, and I'm excited to watch it.
It's going to be fun.
JD, thanks so much, man.
Appreciate y'all, man.
We'll catch you online.
Heck yeah. Keep crushing, boys.
All right, there's JD PicKell, and we are here at Big 12 Media Day, or Big 12 SEC Media Days.
Takes some getting used to.
It's going to take some
Nashville.
time to get used to saying SEC stuff.
If we
Just
keep
in
talking
general.
If we just keep talking about being SEC ready, I think that'll get us there.
The litany
By the way,
of
you asked Greg Sankey, what does SEC ready mean today? I don't want to take people away from going to check out the video and the story, but what was kind of
I
his?
blacked out. I don't remember. No, I think it was mostly talking about the fan base,
Right,
and the passion that goes with that, and that's been a theme with everybody we've talked to, and I'm kind of writing a bigger piece about what does that look like from in the athletic department on the field. Obviously, I think that's what everybody thinks of first is what's the competition level on the field, and then I think the third part that people don't talk enough about is the fan base and the passion, because that's what you feel here at this. I mean, I don't know if you guys were out there yesterday, but when Nick Saban rolled in, I mean, the amount of fans out in the lobby, just yelling
I
"Roll
did not go
Tide"
down there,
for a
but
5-second view.
I
of
should have gone down there for Tennessee today. I didn't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just crazy, and it's like that kind of passion from the fan base. And Sankey said that he believes OU has it. I thought it was really interesting. I didn't realize that he had visited Oklahoma back in December. And took a tour of the campus.
I ran
facilities.
into him in the bowels of BOK because that's where the game was at up in Tulsa.
Yeah,
and now, come to find out, he went out to dinner the night before with Joe Harris and Joe Castiglione, and I think Jenny Baranchek and her husband as well. But yeah, like I think that's the biggest thing that jumps off the page to me is the passion that comes with Oklahoma football, with Oklahoma athletics. It certainly matches up with the best of the best in the SEC, and I think that when you're talking to Greg Sankey about the steps that Oklahoma's made as far as facilities and the investment from the community and everything around there, it's it makes sense even more so now than it has in the past as far as why Oklahoma's joining the SEC. Obviously, the business side of it, but
well, and here's something interesting I took from Shane Beamer today, because he was talking about in the SEC, you don't play in a half-empty stadium. Every time you go somewhere, there's 60, 70, 80, 100,000 people in the stands. But Oklahoma fans are used to that. Like, everywhere they go. Like, that's how we always made fun of Texas A&M. It's because, when Oklahoma would go, they'd be sold out. Everybody'd be to the rafters.
Sure.
But when they would play TCU or, somebody else, the end zones would be empty.
Yeah.
And like, OU would never go anywhere that wasn't a full stadium, except for Kansas, because no one was watching Kansas, and they didn't want to see them get their heads beat in.
Everywhere Oklahoma goes is usually, and I think it's kind of the saying that Brent and the team has used has kind of become a buzzword. It's everybody's Game 7. It's like it's the show
Texas
comes
is
to
the
town.
same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that when you talk about fits and fitting in and being able to compete, like that's if it were TCU or if it were Oklahoma State, like they're not used to that. Like going to South Carolina and facing one of the toughest environments in college football, like you wouldn't expect that, but that's what happens in the SEC. That's what happens to people like Oklahoma State, and I don't want to bag on them, but Texas Tech.
I think that's a very fair point. I mean, it is what it is.
All right, so
Feinbaum just walked by. We should get him on.
He might do it.
Go get him.
Go. You go.
Go get him.
They're off the air, I think, unless he's taking callers.
We're attempting to get Paul Feinbaum right now on the U40.
2:00. His show might be starting.
I really do. Well, does it start at 2 or 3? I think it might start at 3. I don't know. Maybe not.
That would be.
George is going in dry right now. This is going to be really interesting if he comes back around the corner with Paul Feinbaum.
Did he catch him in the elevator? I mean, here's the thing about Paul Feinbaum. Even though he doesn't think
very
much of Oklahoma,
very approachable, and he seems very, very nice.
George is pointing at us. I think he's saying, "Hey, if you get a minute, can you come over here?"
These guys love you. They're big Paul Feinbaum people.
I mean, George has interviewed everybody here. He is.
No, it's been great.
He's been a stallion.
It really has been great to catch up with a bunch of national people.
Yeah.
We have all the interviews up on YouTube. It was awesome to catch up with Dari Noka.
Yeah.
It was great to catch up with Andy Staples, obviously. George has his hands in the air. It looks like maybe we might have a maybe.
We got a just inches kind of
close.
2 fingers. We'll see. He's about to step up to the mic and let us know exactly what happened here.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Did you fail us?
I thought his show started like at 2 o'clock.
He's literally on TV like right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And he said that he was going to the bathroom and that he's literally about to go back on. But he said if we're still here in 2 hours, he'd be more than happy to come on with us. So I think he'll walk back by here in a second.
Maybe we'll do that in 2 hours.
He was very nice to me about it.
Maybe we can get him on camera later today.
That would be good. He told me anytime I needed anything, just let him know.
Well, I mean, I think, but we want Eddie to be the Oklahoma representative on the Fine Bone show, but like he always had Kersey on. I would consider you more of a Kersey replacement. I'm talking to George. Like maybe you can be his future boy toy for Oklahoma.
I don't like that phrasing, boy toy, but sure, that'd be awesome. I mean, I think the whole goal was to get Eddie on there. We've got some good content, but I think that would be the best we got.
If he came on with Eddie there, that would be good.
Oh, yeah.
That would be really good.
Eddie, how was your I'm just curious. I know I saw a lot of people stopping you. You're well known in these parts.
Yeah, I think so. It's been good. I've done a multitude of interviews and stuff, and got a couple more here this afternoon before we get out of here. But I think it's gone really well.
Can I just say too to all the haters out there, and I know it's just very few in our mentions, but they're like, why would you go all the way out to SEC Media Days? It's been fantastic in terms of us putting ourselves out there, getting to know people. Like
100%.
We've gotten to know so many different people in the media
100%.
here. Talk to some of the coaches. I mean, the content we've put out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to just hype ourselves up, but like,
out.
it's just like some of these morons that are like, why would you go all the way out there? It's been totally worth it.
I'll tell you step one.
Called working.
I'll tell you
Wouldn't we?
step one of why we came out here is because Eddie drove the Eskridge Lexus
Absolutely.
with his perfect vision from Enjoy Vision.
Absolutely, I did. And, I don't know if I've ever told you guys about Enjoy Vision before, but it is one of the best laser vision centers in Oklahoma City. Obviously, the experience that I had was unbelievable, just for the fact that it was so easy to get in and get out. And, I think that I would recommend it for anybody. It's the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, obviously because of the combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care, which was life-changing for me. What they're doing, George, for the U40 listener, is they're giving away $400 off of LASIK. So all you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter N, Joy with me.com, and type in the promo code U40 if you're interested in LASIK. And, $400 off. So it's a pretty good deal. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
And thanks to Enjoy Vision for sponsoring the Fresh Perspective Look Around, which is what we've been doing for the first, about 30 minutes of this pod right now. As I'm looking around, I see all kinds of construction. I mean, Nashville is just under siege. They're redoing bridges. It took us about 10 hours to get here and 11 hours to get to our hotel.
Yeah, we made the rounds around this hotel, around the perimeter before breaching.
I think I'm our best navigator, though.
Yeah, you did a really good job.
My Uber yesterday was the better navigator. He figured it out pretty quick.
Yeah, I think once you kind of know where you're going, it's easier to know. But we didn't know where we were going.
And it was at night, which doesn't
It
help.
was at night.
And we were coming through a traumatizing, severe weather system in
Sure.
Memphis. So.
Sure.
Okay, so, I mean, basically, we're going to head home tomorrow. Life starts in the Big 12, and it is going to be a kind of an interesting year because, we're going to be paying attention as much to the teams in the SEC, I think, as we are in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think
if
so.
not more so.
I think so. It's almost like you're covering two conferences right now because they do have a foot in here. There is a presence here for Oklahoma, and I think just talking to people just in general about Oklahoma entering the SEC, I think there's a general excitement out there that they're building or they're bringing in a brand like the Oklahoma program, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how they kind of match up in that first year. Obviously, you got to get through 2023 first, though, and there's going to be a lot of focus on that because of what Oklahoma was unable to do last year, and that's close fourth quarters.
Well, and I think once we get back home, get boots on the ground, it's going to become all about 2023. And can this team win a Big 12 championship in their final season? Texas, I'm sure, number one, they're feeling the same way. So at some point, all this stuff kind of just goes away, and it becomes about Dylan Gabriel, the offensive line, and the defense, and Danny Stutzman. I mean, we will be getting back to the nuts and bolts of OU football here. But, like you said, for the people that are haters, this is a little detour for us. I mean, it's good. I think, it's good for the current players to know, this stuff is going on. They can kind of put it behind them. I mean, there's nobody in the SEC that's like, oh, it's really going to be on our mind. What it's like, I mean, playing Oklahoma and Texas in 2 years.
Well, certainly none of the players were asked because half of the guys that came in with teams to represent, they're upperclassmen, and they're going to be gone. They're not even going to be playing against Oklahoma. But I think there is like I don't know, what would it be, like a big scale or a big picture look at what this thing's going to be when Oklahoma and Texas are added. And I certainly think that the passion from both fan bases matches up with everything that we've seen here. And
do you think like Jackson Arnold, like on a Saturday, like an off day, he's going to be watching SEC instead of Big 12? I could see that. Like I could see him paying attention to things going on in the SEC versus Dylan Gabriel, who's not going to give a shit.
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of this season is kind of paying attention to that, and I think most guys are aware of it. I mean. Who was it that was talking about a lot of the players? I think it was Dana Holgerson talking about recruiting players to Houston to play in the Big 12. It's the same for Oklahoma. They're recruiting players to come play in the SEC.
Well, it's wild even going back to like Xavier Robinson's commitment.
Yeah.
And he's talking about playing in the SEC. And, you get guys now with Zion Raggins that committed on Monday. Obviously, Taylor Tatum's announcement's coming up on Friday. That's all those guys are going to know is playing in the SEC. They're never going to have any experience of playing in the Big 12. And it's really exciting to a certain extent. I think that it does feel like it's finally here. But at the same time, you still have to get through an entire season in which, the building of momentum is going to be massive for Oklahoma going into this year.
As you're talking, George Stoya, I can tell what's going on in his mind. He wanted to steal some SEC signage, but they're taking it all away.
Well, we need something to replace the signed Baker Mayfield sign that we never got.
That's good thinking.
Yeah.
If you could do that, you're off the hook.
If we could get one and then get it signed by Feinbaum, that's even better than the Baker sign.
Sorry, Baker.
You'd probably forget it, like when we turn the car back into Eskridge.
I might. You never know.
I did love the SEC Network commercial where it showed all the Texas and OU highlights, and it's like,
starts with like Bevo and stuff.
Yeah.
Vince Young, SEC legend.
SEC legend.
You knew that was going to happen, though. I mean, it's just like
Adrian Peterson, SEC legend.
It was so funny too that they released that, and then a week earlier at Big 12 they released their new commercial, and it was just like they've won this many Heisman trophies, and it's like 7 of the 8 of those are OU players. Like,
well, they're not from A&M except for Johnny Manziel. Well, yeah, and I mean, you don't think the Big 12 is going to be like the Andre Ware, Big 12 Heisman Trophy winner.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
That is interesting, too, like media, like I'm wondering, like, like Dusty and Teddy, like they're going to have to switch affiliations with like what they're doing. Are they going to be more SEC-centric now? I don't know.
At some point, you got to start. At some point, you got to start carrying the banner, man. I mean, that's why we're here today.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
It is a little bit strange, too, because we're coming out of the Big 12 Media Day, and, there really isn't a whole lot on the table for Oklahoma football right now. Like, this is truly the kind of the calm before the storm. I mean, we're going to get back, and we're going to have local Media Day coming up in the beginning of August, and then they're on the field on August 3rd. So it is kind of the dog days, if you will, here over the next week and a half, and there's going to be a lot of wrap-up from Media Day and stuff like that, but before we know it, we're going to be right in the thick of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time of year. Let's see, it's the 20th today. So everybody's kind of still getting their vacations in. It's like it's not really – the clock hasn't really turned over to the new season yet. But, if you are kind of just trying to take it easy, though, I have a suggestion for you, and that's to check in with PrimeShrimp.com, Prime Shrimp.com. They are a great sponsor of the podcast. Go check them out. It is restaurant-quality meals in less than 10 minutes. They come to you frozen. They got the dry ice in there. You just put them in the freezer and start boiling some water. And within 10 minutes, you've got a restaurant-quality meal fit for a king. All the different types of shrimp that they've got, the Louisiana shrimp boil, the signature season. You can go with the French Quarter Alfredo. Also, the lemon and cracked pepper. Just go check it out. Go check out the website. Use this promo code U40, and you'll get 25% off any order of $50 or more from primeshrimp.com. You can check it, pick out what you want. You can try all the different packs if you want to. Just get $50 worth of shrimp and use that promo code U40 for 25% off your entire order, $50 or more. So thanks to Prime Shrimp, great sponsor of the pod. Go support them. All right. So, like you said, some recruiting coming up. Now, have we really had I'm wondering if Tatum will come out, like if OU will now start kind of telling recruits like, hey, you might mention like you made the decision because of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that could happen. I mean, I think that we talked a little bit about it on last week's pod about Jaden Jackson. I mean, Josh basically said, you know, if OU isn't going to the SEC, they had, what was it, a 10% chance of landing a guy like that. So I think it's one of those things that, you know, it would be interesting to hear some of those players say that. Maybe that's a good story to write this fall. But, yeah, no, I think that it wouldn't be shocking, too, if a guy like Tatum says that. I mean, the number one running back in the country right now, I think that you know, it's pretty obvious that's, you know, part of the reason why he wants to come is to go play in a conference like that. And
sure,
I'm sure a lot of guys would. And, you know, the other thing that's come up a lot in these interviews, Eddie, is the trenches. Every single person has said that to us about, oh, you got to recruit in the trenches. And everybody said,
depth in the trenches.
And,
too.
you know, talking to, I spoke to Zach Selman for this story, and he was talking about the interview process with Brent. And because obviously he was in on that, and he was also talking about, you know, he was Joe C's right-hand man, and so he was in on the conversations of going to the SEC. And he said one of the big things that you see in the SEC is being able to play great on defense up front. And he said that was a big reason why Brent was so attractive for the job, was the ability to recruit up there. And we're seeing that start to pay dividends on the recruiting trail. So it was interesting to hear from a lot of other people here. I mean, I think Andy brought that up, Ryan McGee, I think Dari brought that up.
Yep.
You know, just about being able to get those big guys up front on defense.
Well, it's that. It starts up front. And then the other thing I think that has been the big picture grand scale of kind of SEC Media Days just in general is a little bit of what Andy Staples talked about on the podcast when we were driving out here was the fact that there is no Kansas. And I know Kansas has made some steps under Lance Leopold in his first year. You have to be ready every week. And I think that that's where the competitive depth comes into play. That, you know, Oklahoma players and coaches talked about last week at Big 12 Media Day. There's just a general sentiment out there that when you're even talking about the SEC West, for instance, you have Georgia, you have Alabama, obviously at the top of not Georgia, LSU and Alabama at the top of the list in the West, but 3 through 7, you could make an argument for any of those teams to finish in third. Obviously, Texas A&M on paper is going to be the team that most people think will finish there, but you have a Kentucky. You have a bunch of different players that can go make things happen. And I think that the depth of the league is certainly going to be interesting. Even Oklahoma having to go to Auburn or somebody like that. Well, you don't get a bye week.
And it's going to be interesting to me, you know, and who knows how long Jeff Levy's going to be at Oklahoma. You know, if he's successful, people are going to come after him. I mean, he's a guy that is prepared to potentially, I think, be an SEC coach one of these days. And, you know, it's one of those things like, is Oklahoma going to be able, with Brent Venables as a defensive coordinator, you know, minded guy, are they going to be able to keep, you know, I mean, you go by their recruiting classes, they got Jackson Arnold, they got Michael Hawkins, and they got Kevin Sperry. Like, it's set up, but, like, all that can change overnight if Jeff Levy takes another job. Like, those recruits could easily follow him. Like, when Oklahoma, when they get into this conference, how are they going to be set up from an offensive standpoint to be able to – because – we all know Alabama was stuck in the mud forever. Then Nick Saban, you know, allowed them to kind of start having quarterbacks, and now, you know, they've got a Heisman Trophy winner, number 1 pick in the draft, and now everybody looks at them as a quarterback school. But remember, back in the day, David Cornwell was like their offer, and it was like they weren't really a quarterback school then,
right?
But OU was like, can OU maintain that reputation of being a quarterback school?
No doubt. Josh Heupel is walking towards us.
Josh Heupel is walking towards us.
It could be $100.
I've heard
get on the pod.
Josh Heupel really wants to come on the podcast. No, he's walking away.
He's now walking away. I think he saw us and he's
saw
walking
us and he's
away.
Like, oh, shit.
Josh?
The Oklahoma
Just
guys.
start yelling?
Now I'm hiding. I'm hiding from him.
He really did turn around. He's like, oh, shit, there's Carey.
I will say, you know, he was good today.
Yeah.
When we asked him about that, and it was, I think it was Tyler Palmatier, the great Tyler Palmatier, who now lives in Nashville, former Norman Transcript beat writer. But I was surprised by the answer. I know we literally the last few days had been talking like, how exactly do we phrase this question? What's he going to say? Honestly, I think we all thought he was going to be like, I'm focused on the 2023 season. But
no, we actually had lunch and we had a big discussion.
Yeah, he said all the right things.
And then we came up with a plan, and then as the press conference started, I was like, well, this is the question. And then they didn't call me. So Tyler was gracious enough to ask the question that I kind of crafted there. But I thought that was the best way to do it, And I think
it went off well. I just don't know if I entirely believe everything that he says about not having any hard feelings
the fans,
not complicated, I think is the way that he termed it.
Yeah, the fans, the people that work at the university, I'm sure he means that. But there are hard feelings, with Bob Stoops, and there are hard feelings towards Oklahoma, and maybe they have faded, but I've talked to way too many people close to Josh, and people that have even come to me and said, if you can do anything to help mend the fences, you might do something. And I've talked to Bob about it, and everything that we've talked about is off the record, so I can't really tell you those discussions. But, I was talking to the Tennessee guys today. I didn't even know this. Like, Josh Heupel did not go to Mike Leach's funeral, and obviously he talked a lot about him today, but the reason he didn't go to the funeral, I'm told, is because he didn't want to run into Stoops there.
Which is just, crazy to me. It's crazy that there's still that much animosity between those two, even when we're talking about this 9 years ago.
And I'll tell you this, through back channels, I've been told that if Roy Williams is going to get inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame, Josh Heupel needs to be there for that.
Yeah.
If there's anything that keeps him from being there because Bob Stoops is involved, I've been told that Bob Stoops would say, I'm not going.
Won't go.
I won't go. I want Josh to be there more than I want myself to be there.
It's
crazy. But
sad
Roy
that
Williams
it's come to
want that. I mean,
it's sad that it's come to that. It's like it's two divorced parents that can't be in the same room with their kid.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that maybe it was a situation where Josh got some perspective. Maybe he still will, to where he realizes, like, you know what, he fired me. He had to go another direction. It ended up working out for them, and it ended up working out for me.
I was going to say, it worked out for everybody.
He would never admit this, but I think that it's it's very comparable to the Brent Venables stuff. He needed to go to Clemson to reinvent himself.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing could be said for Josh Heupel. He needed to get out of Oklahoma, reinvent himself, look at what he was doing offensively. I mean, it's not over the top to say that they were awful in 2014 offensively. They just were.
What's amazing is how people get caught in the crossfire in those decisions, because when Brent went to Clemson and they started playing so well, it turned on Mike. It turned the fan base on Mike. They were like, we got rid of the wrong guy. When they saw him as the savior coming in, like, everybody celebrated. Mike's back. Everything's going to be fine. The defense is fixed, because they thought it was broke under Brent. And the same thing, when everybody wanted Josh Heupel gone, they get rid of him. They bring in Lincoln Riley. And now Bob's kind of under fire from Josh for being the bad guy, which, he's your boss. He fires you. I know there's some other things involved about the type of offense they were running, what he was allowed to do, what Bob wanted to do, how much control he wanted to have in what the offense did, and running quarterbacks versus, running the system that Josh runs now. So I get that there's a whole, spider web of things that's happening there that makes people have hard feelings, but we're almost 10 years. I mean, and look, if Josh Heupel, was he the SEC Coach of the Year? Or
2022.
or something?
I believe he was the Coach of the Year. I think Sankey said that as he
I thought that was true. But, anywhere in the SEC, your job is never really safe unless you're Nick Saban. Like Kirby Smart's job, even though he's won 2 straight national championships, he has a couple of bad seasons.
Oh, those people will turn on him in the blink of an eye.
And same thing with Heupel at Tennessee. If Milton is not a great quarterback and they struggle, he gets hurt and they struggle, he's going to be on the hot seat. I'm not saying that he get fired this year, but it's really easy to get on the hot seat. So it'd be nice if Josh was more established as a coach. Maybe he can kind of let things die at that point.
It's really interesting to me too, just how everybody kind of compares each other around here, and around here being the SEC. Everybody is comparing, what Tennessee is versus Kentucky, or what Kentucky is versus LSU, or what LSU is against Georgia. Georgia and Alabama are obviously far and away the two best teams in this conference, but it seems like everybody else is bunched together, trying to kind of take that next step and knock off the big dog.
Yeah, I thought it was also interesting, too. We asked a lot of people if they thought OU was ready. I feel like we got a lot of questions back at us, like, so is OU ready to figure it out? Like, what I thought that was interesting to hear some of the other people's perspectives on, like, is Brent Venables, do you guys believe in him and those sorts of things? It's like a lot of people don't know much about Oklahoma either in some fashion.
And I think a lot of it has to be because of the way that they lost games last year. I mean,
yeah.
It was not a familiar way of failure for a lot of Oklahoma fans, and I think that was the toughest part coming out of last season was just the fact that you don't see Oklahoma struggle that much on the football field. And there were so many times throughout the year last year where they were in games that historically they've won. They've won a lot of ways. They just haven't lost in that many ways. And I think that was the most surprising part about all of it.
Can I also say this is off topic a little bit, but I've seen the players here. Boy, do they have some great chains. That the chain game in the SEC is a different level.
Pretty strong.
I mean, they are. I know.
I saw Rattlers today. That was a pretty cool little snake-looking.
Jalen Daniels still
thing.
has the best one we've seen.
Yeah,
from
but
Kansas.
the highlights.
But like every player here. I mean,
sure.
Again, it's just different, man. It's
fun. It's been a lot of fun, and it gets the kind of the juices flowing. And we're gonna have to go back and take a step back and into the Big 12 country here.
I mean, I haven't noticed the change. I'm a watch guy, you know that.
I know you shamed me after the spring game. I will never forget it.
Well, you need a real watch.
Yeah, well,
I bought a watch that was $200 the other day. It's way more.
Well, send me the link. I'll buy it.
I'll give it to you. Do you want it?
No, I'm not going to take your $200 watch.
No, it was funny because I went to Jared Followill's house last night, and I guess he bought the same watch after he saw that both I and Liam, their keyboard player, Eddie knows him. Mm-hmm. Like we both posted about the watch that we liked it, and so he bought it.
I thought you were going to say he bought a Fossil watch because that's a great watch.
He would never buy a Fossil watch. No one would ever buy a Fossil that knew what
Not
they were doing.
anymore, maybe.
Not anymore. You made a mistake. That's fine. We all make mistakes. I have some mistake watches as well. I have bought a Nixon watch back in the day.
That's Watch Talk.
That's Watch Talk 2023. And that is not SEC ready podcast.
Yeah, that's not part of the process.
So, by the way, want to tell you what I have done here this week is I'm not today because I finally ran out, but I've been dead soxy in it all over with the no shows. I think Eddie is no showing
doing it right now. Yeah.
And it's fantastic, kind of being closer to SEC. Now, Dead Soxy is SEC ready. Go check them out. Dead Soxy, DeadSoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP. You'll get 25% off your entire order, even sale items. But go check them out. Order. It's hot. It's ridiculous. We've been telling you. Go get 7 days of no-shows because you really need them. And running out was not cool because I really wish I had another pair today. Also, the boardroom, the team colorways. You can get Crimson and Cream themed socks for the season. You get the Maker Bayfields. So just go check it out. DeadSoxy.com. Great sponsor. And also, I had a lot of fun, guys, on the way up here making the video from Quick Trip.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I can't wait to hit Quick Trip on the way back to the great state of Oklahoma. It's going to be I might have to go with something else other than the taquitos. I'll maybe go to the grill this time.
The brisket sandwich looked really good.
The brisket mac and cheese, I think you got to try that.
Yeah.
Little taste test.
Maybe eat light until we get there.
The taquitos are great.
We can do that.
I love the taquitos.
They were good.
No, but we want to thank Quick Trip for being our travel partner. They've got a lot of throughout the Southeast. They're starting to put in a lot of smaller Quick Trip stores. So keep your eye out for that. And if you love the U40 pod, make sure if you're on the road, you see a Quick Trip, you need some gas, go fill up and go get you a Frizzoni, I believe they're called, not Ices.
I believe that's right.
Frizzoni. My Coke and white cherry was very good.
What is the biggest question going to be for like local media day here when we get back to Oklahoma?
Deion Sanders.
That has kind of blown up. I guess we got to talk about it a little bit. Obviously, it was from an interview with the OU Nightly. In
our guy Brigg.
Yeah.
And he did this. He sold. I guess the ref. He said the same thing on the ref.
Bob did. I mean, Brent did.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, he was just pointing out that they've gone about it 2 different ways.
Yeah, and I know there's some people out there saying he's not taking a shot, but when you clearly say a coach's name, and I don't,
shot.
I mean, it's just, I don't think it's a huge shot, but it was. I don't know.
It's someone who's it's a shot, but it's also come from someone who's frustrated that he didn't do it that way, and like it would have been the easy way for him, I think, to just get rid of the players he knew couldn't play. While Deion just said, "Look, I'm running a business. I'm going to come in here. You guys can't play for me. You were terrible, so we're going to start over."
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to work at Colorado. The closer we get to the season, I'm just
I don't think it's going to work at all. I think it's going to be a terrible decision.
I think the closer we get to it, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to happen. And you also hear about the health issues he's having. I just don't know how he's going to be able to do this. But, I do think that it's important to talk about, though, the way that Brent is approaching it is he said, hey, I gave these guys a 12-month grace period, and once that was over, he flipped it. And you look at what they've been able to do.
He told them you're not going to be able to make it here.
Right, and that goes back to the 18-month process that he talked about of, like, this thing is totally different than where they were when he first stepped in here. And I think that was his point on it.
You could say that that's just as callous because he just used those guys to make it through a season.
Look,
then he let them all.
It could very well not work for Brent either. Like maybe they're both doing it wrong. Like I don't know what the answer is, but that was his point. Is their process is longer than what Deion is doing at Colorado.
Right. And if Deion has enough practice bodies and all that stuff, and it works out for him, then good. But I just can't see him rebuilding a roster overnight like that.
No. I can't
see anybody. It's not against Deion. I just can't see anybody doing it.
I also watched a little bit of Jackson State. It was Jackson State, right? Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if his son's a nice quarterback, and I know the Pac-12 is not a great conference, but there's a difference between him and Caleb Williams, obviously. But even
Jackson State, I mean, he had legitimate D1 athletes that were just better than their competition.
Right, but I don't know if his son is like this great quarterback that's going to be, I have no idea. I just don't know. And again, when you have that many guys, having to mesh together that quickly, that's a hard thing to do. I mean, even Brent, he had some roster turnover in his first year, and you could see the problems that they had. So I don't know. And you talk about competitive depth. I mean, does Colorado have competitive depth?
No.
I mean, that's things like that. And again, they're not in
starting depth.
Yeah. I mean, and again, they're not in a tough conference necessarily, but it's still a Power 5 conference. I mean, they're still going to have to play the USCs and UCLAs of the world, and I don't know, man. But I think it's been overblown.
Here's a question. So the Pac-12 media days are getting ready to happen. They say that they're going to have a media rights deal announced soon after.
It's embarrassing that they don't have it.
Are they under a rights deal right now? Like, do they have nothing? Like if there's no grant of rights holding them together, they're going into the season not even knowing who's in their league.
It's wild.
Is that actually how – or is this a final year of the
Don't look at me. I don't know how any of that works.
You know what? It would be because USC and UCLA are not leaving until next year.
Right.
So, yeah, it's not that way.
They have one more year, but they're basically working under nothing for 2024.
Right. Right now they're all together this season, and then it's –
same thing as they're all making the move, just like OU and Texas is in 2024 to the Big Ten.
But at least the Big 12 has been able to get its legs underneath it.
Brett Yormark's done an incredible job to keep that thing together and improve it even.
I will say one thing today, and this isn't a knock, but Brett Yormark last week, and I think we've talked about this. I've said this. Like, to me, he's running an entertainment company.
Yeah.
Not a conference, not a sporting conference. Whereas, I really thought today I kind of felt some Bob Bowlesby vibes, and not in a bad way, just more of an administrative kind of working with presidents and athletic directors.
It's Roger Goodell vibes to me.
Really?
It is a professional football league, and we talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the podcast, but that's the sense I get.
And I'm not saying Greg Swinke's boring and aloof and is going to get taken advantage of. I'm just saying it was more structure. It was more kind of
definitely
college administrative than it was entertainment.
But I think Bowlesby was, they always got into the academic weeds a little bit, and and part of it's just he's just so monotone when he gets up there, and Sankey is a little bit too. Yeah. But Sankey, he also kind of demands your attention. Like watching the opening press conference on TV on Monday, it's like him basically saying, the Congress has to help out with NIL and, calling for action among, local government and things like that kind of stuff. The way he said that and the way that he used those words was like, okay, this is a commissioner.
I mean, he's the most powerful guy in college football,
100%.
Probably. Not even probably.
No, he is. Yeah. I mean,
it's
if you're making a power list, Nick Saban might be number 1. He's probably number 2.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that the a few days after he has that big spiel, obviously they were working on this bill beforehand, but the big bill that I think it's Cory Booker and a couple other senators.
This whole thing is such a mess. I mean, it's just, it gets more, and I get it. Like, we've said this so many times. We know the fans don't want us to do a full NIL, but it's getting to the point where it's really going to screw up college football if they don't fix it. And the stuff that they're coming up with, like, I saw Andy Staples. He said the commission that you're talking about, he said he wouldn't trust them to put together a parking ticket for us or whatever. Like, there is no one, and I think Shannon Terry has said this a lot. He's the head of On3. There is no advocacy for the athletes. There's no one, like, the people like Livy Dunn that are out there and Angel Reese, like, they're doing it. They're using NIL exactly as it was envisioned to be used. They've got agents. They're signing deals. They're making millions of dollars. That's what NIL was supposed to be. What everybody else is doing is just pay for play.
Yeah, and Lane Kiffin I thought was really interesting talking about that this morning and saying that, these schools, the way the collectives are set up now is that the schools with the biggest boosters, well, they're just funneling money to the university, and then they take that money and they just give it to the collective, and then they're just giving it to the players, and it's straight pay for play, and that's not what this was intended to do.
And what are they doing for the money? And who gets $25,000 a year and who gets $100,000 a year? Like, there's no transparency. There's no accounting for this stuff. Nobody knows what's going on.
I thought it was pretty interesting that Lane Kiffin talked about that today, just as far as like dissension in the locker room and how bad things can get if a season goes south. And I think that he handles it about the way that everybody else handles it. That's the way. Like, these guys want to get to the NFL. You're going to have somebody in that locker room as well that is making a bunch more money because they're that much more meaningful to the product.
Well, and we weren't here for A&M, but some of the comments that came out from the A&M players talking about how much of a problem that was. I mean, there's people...
Which is rich considering all of those players did interviews with sunglasses on.
Yeah. But it's real. It's real.
Irony.
From covering an NFL locker room, there's jealousy that goes among players at times of, so-and-so got paid that amount of money, or,
when somebody gets a new national ad that runs all the time.
And this is different in the NFL because you can only have so many guys, but, one defensive player is playing great and the other guy's playing great, but next year they're only going to be able to keep one guy and sign one guy and pay one guy that money. Do we get to that point in college football? Probably not, but, like, those sort of things happen where it's like they're on the same team, but they can only pay one guy going forward. So I don't know. It's interesting, and they do need to get a grasp on it. And I know people have talked about, do they need a salary cap? That's never going to happen. Like, I don't know how you would even implement something like that.
There's no way that's going to be legal. There's just no way.
The reality is that the schools with the biggest, Kiffin kind of talked about it. The schools with the biggest boosters are going to continue to get the best players, and that's just the way it's going to work, I feel like. But they do need some sort of probably guidelines and reform in what they're doing right now.
I think maybe you need to talk to Kiffin about how to bounce back from a long night.
Kiffin's, I was up. Wait a second. We had a great night last night. One of the greatest nights of our lives. I think Eddie would agree.
Yeah.
And we were.
I don't know about that. It was a lot of fun though.
But I was up and at 'em. You guys were like, I can't believe. I was up at 7:30. I went down. I took a shower. I went down. I got a nice breakfast.
Your
saved.
Youth served you well.
I'm
I saved us a table up front so we could get our questions.
I'm jealous of the breakfast situation that you had this morning.
Eddie's the one struggling. And look at me. I'm doing great.
I'm not struggling. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Your voice was noticeably low this morning.
Yeah. It took me a little bit to get into the day.
How much did you smoke last night, young man?
I didn't. I think that's the problem.
George?
No comment. But I will say when I walked out of the room this morning, I was like, Eddie, I'm going down. And he was like, all right. And I was just like, he's not. I was like, I'm going to have to call him at 10:30 to.
But hey, what time was I down there?
You were down there.
You were down there by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, you were down there for Kiffin. So
that's right. No, it's been a lot of
Josh
fun.
Heupel is in
It's
our
been.
vicinity again.
Is he? Where's he at?
He's right there, right behind the pillar.
Invite him over.
We're acting like a bunch of schoolboys
That's what
fawning
we
over
do.
a girl.
That's what we do.
Just start whistling at them.
Cat calling.
Yeah.
I'll sing Rocky Top.
I do like the music. I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Look, I mean
fight
that
songs.
trip to Knoxville was
It was awesome.
fantastic.
It was
That's
awesome.
one of my most
I
memorable trips
do
of all
think
time.
though that trip probably has greater memory because
They
of the
won,
game
yeah.
and the way that they won and
No,
the
if they
birth
would
of
have
Baker
lost
Mayfield.
an overtime game, we would have
Right.
been like, "Wow, that was crazy going to that damn
Yeah,
place."
yeah. It was
Where they
loud
wouldn't
though. It
stop
was a lot of
playing
fun.
Third down for what?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That place was unbelievable. I can't wait to get back.
I mean, that's the thing that's going to be great. Is like that was Knoxville. We're going to get to see Death Valley. You know, we're going to get to see Tuscaloosa, like how
Yep.
it is now. Like when I went in 04, it's nothing like it is now.
Right.
So, I mean, open air press box is fantastic there too.
Big fan of the open air.
So, yeah, I mean, look, we're not in the SEC. We're close. We got a little taste of it this week. It's been fun. It's talking season is coming to an end,
Yep.
except for Pac-12. I mean, Pac-12 should be pretty good drama.
It'd be
next
interesting.
week.
Well, and it'd be interesting to see what happens with, every once in a while, I like to see what's going on out west with the head coach at USC and see what he has to say about getting Caleb Williams back and obviously the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and the expectations that come with.
You think he'll get a
with
lot
that.
of stuff about stealing Bear Alexander?
I would bet not, but I would imagine that he will say something in terms of NIL. He'll get asked, how that plays with USC.
Was Kirby asked about that this week?
No, and it
But
was
he
kinda
also
made
wasn't
out
even.
like,
He also wasn't even asked about all the stuff going on with the
and
program.
The
And-
AJC did retract
I saw
the
that
story, and they fired the reporter.
But
and
I
all
don't
that
think
kind
he
of
was
stuff.
even asked about the speeding stuff either. So I mean, the media day stuff is.
I think
Wild.
I think when he was on the ESPN set, he was asked about that in his big press conference.
He was?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember why. It was the first press conference, wasn't it? Of the media days?
Kirby?
Yeah.
No, Brian Kelly was first.
Oh. No wonder we didn't see any highlights from that.
Georgia was on the day that we were driving out.
Yes,
one. Okay.
correct.
No, I mean we were here for 2 days, and to me, Kiffin just. If I had a collective, I would have disbanded it today after listening to Lane Kiffin this morning. It just
But
felt
it's
so,
funny because it's kind of like what JD said. Mississippi's used the portal as much as anybody
Yeah.
in this
There's a
conference.
reason their quarterback room is so good because the portal.
He didn't get any questions about Spencer Sanders today.
Because
either,
he's not going to play.
which is crazy.
It's incredible. I mean, I think that we talked to an Ole Miss guy last night, and
It is kind of funny you're saying this, though. He was the most woe is me person up there today.
Yeah.
And he has one of the best situations
100%.
of any offense in the conference.
100%. That's why it's, I don't know if irony is the right word, but
Is he just going to, run Jackson Dart until he gets
Well, I
his
think that
hip
the plan is to
broken or
use
something?
Spencer Sanders with the ground game and then
Yeah.
let Jackson Dart throw the ball all over the field.
I think Spencer Sanders is better than Jackson Dart.
And when he's good, yeah, he is. But if he's not throwing picks or doing stupid stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, why he left Oklahoma State is still.
Now, did you guys fill out your SEC ballots?
I did
Not
not
yet.
feel comfortable voting for the
Not
all
yet.
SEC.
I submitted one.
Did you really?
Yeah, I just put all Vanderbilt players. I just want my presence to be known. I didn't actually. It
We're
was
never getting invited back.
Yeah, well, he just.
I guarantee you, there is a media member here that probably
Solidified
put
our
one
doom.
team only on there.
It's just all Alabama or
Yeah.
all Georgia.
Well, and we heard, I guess, the Tennessee contingent.
Maybe we should
It's
fill a
interesting.
fake one out and show it to Josh while he's sitting over there interviewing and see if that'll get us an interview.
I do wonder if he walked by here and he said, "Hey, Josh, you got a minute?" He said
For
hi
your
to you.
old
He
pal.
said, "What's up?"
Yeah.
Shook your hand.
If he looks over here, I'll try and motion.
Well, yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
just sit here in silence until either he comes over or Paul Feinbaum does.
Feinbaum is
2
literally
hours of dead air.
Yeah, Feinbaum is literally on TV right now, I believe. I think he would have come on too. He basically was like, "Yeah, I would come on, but I'm literally on television."
What a snob. No, it's been fun. This has been a good trip.
I would give him my condolences for what's her name, Mulga.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
The caller, yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's gonna bug me. I mean, that's disrespectful that I don't remember her name. Jeez, and we had her on my radio show.
Tammy?
No, Tammy was
Phyllis,
the Auburn.
Phyllis
from Olga. Yeah, Tammy was the Auburn crazy lady. So, I don't know. I mean, recruiting will start getting back after that. OU's got an elite camp that
Elite camp next week, and
but
then
we don't know if we can cover it.
Yeah,
yet.
we don't
We're
know if we
trying
can
to
go
figure
in.
That out.
I think the big news will happen while we're driving back is the expected commitment of Taylor Tatum, and Josh has done a really good job of covering that on the board.
Yeah.
And everything that goes into that, obviously, would be a big deal for OU's baseball program as well, with how good Taylor Tatum is on the baseball field. So it is, it's going to be a nice little run. And they got Zion Raggins on Monday. It's been a good run for Oklahoma here.
It just seems like everything is going in the right direction right now.
Right.
I mean, obviously,
It's going well enough that the only thing that they have to do now is not F it up on the field.
That's what I was going to say. Is you ride
strength.
you ride the high of Brent Venables at Big 12 Media Days, and then him. You always somewhat feel better about the team after you hear from him, right? And then they're doing well on the recruiting trail. It's just like now they just need to go win 10 games, man.
Yeah.
Brent, I don't know if you're listening to this. I know someone will relay this message to you. You're not SEC ready for media day because you're going to be filibustering in this thing. We have to get more questions.
Well, I think he is ready because if anyone can filibuster, it's Brent Venables.
yeah, but I'm saying you don't want to filibuster.
Did you guys see the times for the longest opening statements at SEC Media
It
Days?
had to be Zach Arnett had to be the longest, right?
No. Try again.
Was it? Well, Beamer was trying to be cognizant of it.
Beamer was top 3, I believe. I believe he
Saban?
finished 3rd. Nope. Saban was short.
Were we here?
No.
Okay. So
we were not here. We were not here, no.
Was Napier one of them?
It's Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart.
Oh, he's filibustering, so he didn't get
Yes.
the
Yes. So
Number
he didn't
2
have to
was
answer questions.
Drinkowitz went through his entire roster, just listing dudes off. And then Beamer,
love that.
I think Beamer was 3rd.
That's just incredible to
And
me.
Beamer said he started us out saying my kids reminded me I was second longest.
He
last
went long
year.
today.
So and he couldn't help himself.
Yeah, he went long today. He almost made me miss the Greg Sankey interview.
I know we were getting uptight.
Yeah.
It was getting close. I was like, what are we going to do?
That was pretty interesting. Eddie and I were out like we were blocking, making sure that he didn't go anywhere.
Do not leave. He's coming.
Yeah. I almost had to leave mid-answered.
No, I look, lastly, thanks to the SEC for having us. We really did enjoy it. You put on a good show. It's a really good product. I understand why OU and Texas want to be a part of this, just being out here for the last few days. It'll be in Dallas next year, at the Omni, which is going to be kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see how many Oklahoma and Texas fans show up in the lobby for that.
And I would tell OU fans, show up because I think you want to let your presence known a little bit. Everybody's talking about is OU SEC ready. If you show up and you start yelling Boomer Sooner outside the hotel, there'll be a little bit more respect, I think.
Maybe reenact the JFK thing in Dallas to really send a message. I'm just saying. It's just a proposition.
He just said reenact.
It's just a proposition.
I think he said reenact. I don't think he said.
Well, we don't know if it actually ever happens. So
like
that's
Civil
that's
War
kind of
is what
one
you're
of the,
talking about.
Yeah,
reenactment.
right.
Yeah, there you go. All right, that's going to do it. Unless Josh Heupel, we'll just keep pretending. After we're done, we'll just keep pretending like we're talking to see if Josh Heupel just looks over at us.
Yeah, we'll add it in on the end if
we'll
that's what
turn it back
happens.
up. All right, so thanks for listening. Thanks to Quick Trip. Thanks to Eskridge Lexus for the fantastic Lexus GX that we've had. I will say I've enjoyed being chauffeured around.
Yeah, Eddie's a great driver.
Thank you.
We survived.
Depends on if you're riding in the back or not, because he likes taking those turns regardless if he's in an SUV or a sports car.
Well, I mean, you just got to be if you're buckled in, it shouldn't matter.
Well, when you have a lap full of icy from Quick Trip in your, Frazzoni in your lap, it's not the best feeling in the world.
I'll be cognizant of that on the way home.
It sounds like you're saying you're going to make it worse.
Maybe.
All right. Carey Murdoch, Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya right here from SEC Media Days. I'll be driving home now. That's what I just decided. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.